All right, let's dive right in. We're going to explore a pretty mind-bending idea today, drawn from our source material. What if there's a single, universal pattern that drives, well, everything? I'm talking about the same rhythm that governs the expansion of the cosmos and the beating of your own heart, a hidden pulse of life, death, and what comes after. And really, that's the big question, isn't it? What if a huge problem in astrophysics, the way your own heart works, and an ancient sacred text are all pointing to the exact same process? A story that we're not just watching from the sidelines, but one that we are living from the inside, right now. So, to start, let's look at the first piece of this puzzle. And it comes from a major disagreement right at the heart of modern cosmology. Okay, so we all know the universe is expanding. You can think of it like a loaf of raisin bread baking in the oven. All the raisins are moving away from each other. But the really crucial question for scientists is how fast is it expanding? They call this rate the Hubble constant, and knowing that number is a pretty big deal. Oh, here's where it gets weird. When scientists measure the expansion by looking way back at the early universe, right after the Big Bang, they get one number. But when they measure the universe that's closer to us, the late universe, they get another, faster number. And they just don't agree. This whole problem has a name. It's called the Hubble tension, and it's a huge headache for physicists. So this throws up a massive question. I mean, is our fundamental understanding of physics just plain wrong? Or are we missing something? Is there something about our perspective, our specific point of view in the cosmos, that we're just not seeing? And that leads us to this really fascinating idea from our source material. What if the problem isn't the physics or the data, but our point of view? What if we're trying to measure the whole system from inside of it?
This quote just nails it. The idea is that the disagreement in the numbers isn't some mistake. It's actually a clue. It's the exact result you'd expect to get if you're a fish trying to measure the whole ocean while you're swimming in it. Of course your measurements are going to be affected by the currents you're in. Your position changes everything.
Now, the source material gives this model a name, dual caustic cosmology. It doesn't throw out Einstein's theories or anything like that, no. It just adds a layer. It suggests that as the universe aged, things like galaxies and stars formed, and that created a kind of, cosmic friction. And that friction actually changes our perspective, making the universe look like it's expanding faster now than it did way back then. So the really key idea here is this pattern. A system that's evolving under pressure. But this is where it gets really cool, because this pattern isn't just happening on a cosmic scale. The source material says it echoes everywhere, at every scale, including right inside our own bodies. Let's see how this plays out. We're going to look at one of the most intense, most violent things in the universe, a black hole. We tend to think of this kind of total gravitational collapse as pure chaos and destruction, but what if it's actually the source of a profound, new kind of order? You see, when a giant star collapses, it doesn't just fall straight in on itself. It spins. It rotates, twisting the very fabric of spacetime around it. And this incredible rotation, under unimaginable pressure, takes all that chaotic, collapsing matter and organizes it. It channels it into these incredibly powerful, focused jets of energy that shoot out into space. You get emergence from pressure. Okay, so hold that picture in your mind, that cosmic twisting and emergence. Because what our source is telling us is that at a human scale, your heart is following the exact same physical law. The heart isn't just a simple pump that goes in and out. It's an absolute marvel. It's actually a single muscle band folded over itself in a spiral. So when it beats, it doesn't just squeeze, it twists, kind of like you're wringing out a towel. And that twisting motion is an incredibly efficient way to store and then release energy. And that release is your pulse. And right there, that's the punchline. That's what connects these two completely different scales. The black hole rotates under pressure and creates a pulse of energy. Your heart rotates under pressure and creates a pulse of life. It is the exact same dynamic principle, the same rhythm, playing out in the heavens and inside your own chest. So, now that we've seen this incredible physical pattern of pressure creating a pulse, the source material goes even deeper. It suggests there's a metaphysical framework for all this, sort of like the source code for this universal engine. Okay, so the first part of this code is a principle called Rahmān. The best way to think about this is as this universal, all-encompassing expansion. It's the infinite potential, the boundless field that contains everything and allows it all to exist. And the other side of the coin is a principle called Rahīm.
So if Rahman is the expansion, Rahīm is the focus. It's the force that pulls all that universal potential down and converges it into something specific, something tangible. It's what gives form to the formless.
And here's the thing, for any living system to exist, you absolutely need both, right? Expansion by itself would just dissolve into nothing, and focus all by itself would just collapse into a black hole. It's the constant pulse, the dynamic dance between the two that actually creates and sustains our reality. The source points to this exact cycle in 3 chapters of the Qur'an. First, a chapter on life speaks of endless, overflowing abundance. That's the flow. Second, a chapter on time talks about compression, about being tested. This is death, but not as an end, more like a filter. And then third, a chapter on emergence, which says that after the pressure, a new truth appears. Flow, pressure, emergence. That's the engine.
So, if this fundamental rhythm, this pattern of expansion, pressure, and emergence is truly everywhere, I mean in the cosmos, in our hearts, in sacred texts, then why isn't it totally obvious? Why don't we see it all the time?
Well, the source material gives us this amazing metaphor. We don't see the pattern for the simple reason that we are completely immersed in it. It's like a fish in the ocean. A fish doesn't know what's in water. It has no concept of wet until maybe it sees its own reflection on the surface and for the first time discovers the environment it's always been in. And that really is the whole point. This isn't about learning some new fact about the world out there. It's about a shift in your own perspective. It's about finally recognizing the medium that you've been living in your entire life. It's about aligning yourself with the rhythm that's been beating since the very beginning of time. So let's put it all together. You've got the black hole twisting space-time to create order. You have the universe's expansion telling us we're seeing it from the inside. You've got the heart twisting to create a pulse of life. And you have the Qur'an describing a cycle of flow, pressure, and emergence. It's all the same story. It's all one single fundamental motion. But just knowing this is only the first step. So the final question our source leaves us with isn't really an answer. It's more of an invitation. Once you start looking for this pattern, once you start trying to see the water you're swimming in, what else might you start to see? What other connections, what deeper truths might finally come into focus?